Good afternoon and welcome to the Celtic Way Briefing Live. Some technical issues this morning, but they've been resolved. So we're back. Today it's Monday the 13th of June and I'm joined today by Alison McConnell. How are you, Alison?
Very well, thanks, Tony. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. Some gremlins got me this morning, but there you go. You know who it is. Haggerty on the Twitter handle. First things first, we always say thank you to our sponsors, OneFootball. Get downloading the OneFootball app. It's your one-stop football shop for scores, news, and match highlights, transfer rumours, live streaming, you name it, it's there. And it's a cracking app. You can immerse yourself in the digital football world and have the best personal digital football experiences out there. It's a cracking app. I suggest you get downloading that. And also, you can see running along the bottom of your screen. You want to join us, you can have a 30-day free trial. You know what to do by now. Hit the subscribe button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Now, Alison, I go away for a day on Friday and everything just seems to happen. Goes haywire. Cameron Carter-Vickers signs a permanent 4-year deal. Harry Kewell coming in as part of Ange's backroom staff, first team coach. Celtic doing a wee bit of early business, Alison, but everybody's delighted with that. The fans are delighted with that, aren't they? And now they're saying we want Jota. They're getting greedy on it now, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that would probably have been two of the priority signings. I think if you looked at the contribution that they offered last season, I think if you take it away, it leaves quite a substantial hole, and that's before you even start thinking about tweaking the squad for the demands that lie ahead. So I think it's good news that Cameron Carter-Vickers has signed a permanent deal for Ange Postecoglou. I think it saves the headache of going out and trying to source another centre-half. I think still an argument that there might need to be one more come in if Christopher Julian goes, which I think might be the case. And I think Jota is an ongoing dialogue, which I think he'd always threatened to maybe rumble on a wee bit. But I think that would be the next one that Celtic would wish to get over the line and get on a permanent basis. And I think if it's not going to come to fruition, then they need a heads up in order that they go and start to look elsewhere. Otherwise, or else they offer that kind of directive to Jota. I'm not sure that they'll be able to hang on too long when you think that they'll want to rebuild. If he's not coming in, they'll want to make sure that there's a suitable replacement going in there for the start of the campaign. And I think it's a step in the right direction to have Carter-Vickers penning a permanent deal, and I think the next one would be for Jota, and then whatever else business needs to take place over the next couple of weeks.
I mean, we spoke at length during the season about Cameron Carter-Vickers being a vital cog in that Celtic machine, Alison, and how everything hinged on if the player was happy and the personal terms were agreed, which they were very early. So that was an early indicator that he was willing to commit his future to Celtic when the personal terms were agreed pretty early, but it's always getting it over the line. And I think that's what the Celtic fans were delighted with, the fact that they've managed to secure such a pivotal and important player.
Yeah, I think he was one of the mainstays of the team last season. I think if he's fit and he's available, he's in the team. I don't think that will change next season. I think he lent an assurance and a calmness to that back line, him and I think Carl Starfelt too. Yeah. I think Starfelt had a tougher start to his Celtic career, but I think the two of them combined, and between those two and Joe Hart, I think Celtic had the stingiest defence in the league last season.
Yeah.
But I also think there was an assurance about them that hadn't been there the season before.
Yeah. Now, you spoke about Jota and the deal rumbling on, but I think the reading between the lines, there's some kind of not hitch, but personal terms are still to be agreed. But I don't think it's something that Celtic think can't be ironed out. And I think most people, the smart money is on that it's a matter of time before Jota is announced as well. Is that what you're hearing and probably you're thinking on it as well, Alison?
I don't know if it's quite as straightforward as that. I think Celtic would certainly like to think so. I think there might be a few bits and pieces still to be organised, but yeah, I think Celtic will be very keen to keep him, just based on what he offered last season. I think he's a creative player. He's a player who makes things happen. I think he was part of a very exciting forward line when you consider the talent that Celtic had there. And I think they will want to get him in on a permanent basis. And I think the player himself, it's been a fairly nomadic career up to now. I think he would know that there's an opportunity next season to showcase what he has, what he's about in the Champions League, as well as staying in Glasgow for at least another season, possibly longer. And then I think it would afford an opportunity to potentially go elsewhere, if, of course, that's what his ambitions are. But I think Celtic need to know quite quickly what's happening in that position, because if things aren't agreed, then clearly they would have to look elsewhere, because he was a substantial contributor to how Celtic played last season and how and a source of goals, both being the architect and the goal scorer.
Now, Harry Kewell, was that a curveball, Alison? Did that come out of the blue for you?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting last season that Ange Postecoglou didn't bring in his own backroom staff and his own team. I thought it was a measure of his own confidence and belief in himself that he was prepared to walk into a club on his own and say, no, I'll work with whoever's here already. I think it was indicative of the faith he had in his own methods to get the job done. I'm not sure it's a huge surprise that once he had his feet under the desk, he'd maybe want to bring in his own staff. And I think he obviously knows him very well from their time together and working together. And I think it will bolster the backroom team and just maybe lend him a bit of support and maybe take a bit of weight off him in terms of the day-to-day jobs that need done.
I think in everything else, the manager's been trusted with the recruitment of players. Alison, he's not bringing in Harry Kewell for nothing. He clearly sees something and has identified something that Harry Kewell can bring and add to the backroom staff.
No, clearly, and I think I don't think it's a huge surprise that you would go with someone that you have an existing relationship with, someone that you have a professional relationship with, and that you can prepare for the demands of the role of going into Celtic and create an expectation of what awaits, because I think it is quite unique in many ways. I think the intensity of Celtic is unique for anyone who's associated with it. I think you can dip under the radar when things are going well. When they're not going well, as you saw last season, everyone is fair game. So I think it helps when you know the capacity of someone to cope with pressure and intensity and to know what their skill set is. And obviously Ange Postecoglou will have that existing relationship already.
Yes, indeed. Now, another couple of names, Alison, that came out over the weekend in Celtic supposedly in extended discussions. Lanus fullback Alexandro Bernabe. Now, I believe there's been an initial bid rejected for him, but Celtic seem to be very, very keen on him. I was watching the kind of highlights reel as they do when they say a club's interested in a player, and he looks to all intents and purposes from the show reel decent and could contribute to the cause.
Yep, I think there'll be a number of positions that Celtic will seek to reinforce this summer. I'm not sure that's a huge surprise that that's an area of the pitch that they're looking at. I think you would expect that. I think you'll probably find that there will be a number of players linked with that role. I think there's, as happens at clubs, you maybe have 3, 4, 5 players identified that you think fit your system, fit the way you want to play, fit into that way of the team, and sometimes it's maybe just about assessing everything that goes on round about it and trying to get a deal done and over the line. And I certainly think that area of the pitch you can expect reinforcements to come in.
Now, Alan Robertson comes in with a good point here. He says, do the left backs identified by the scouts, according to the media, do they fit the bill as an alternative to Greg Taylor? I think the ones I've seen look similar in height and style. And he asked the question mark, is it an upgrade? Now, we've spoken before about this, and Sean's big on this about players have to be better than what they already have. Now, I don't know too much about Alexandro Bernabe. As I say, I've only seen that highlights reel, but Celtic seem to have identified him as a player that can certainly come in and take that left-back belt or certainly challenge Greg Taylor. I think that's the thinking behind it, isn't it, Alison?
I think so, and I think it's been inevitable. I think, as I said, I think it's an area of the pitch that does need to be reinforced. I think you would have to say just now that Greg Taylor has a hold of the shirt. I think he's made it his own this season. But I think you need competition in areas, and I also think you need cover. I'm not sure there's been adequate cover in that area of the pitch. And I would suspect that it's a priority signing this season.
Yeah, I think left back certainly, yeah, indeed. Now, going back to Harry Kewell, Craig White-Leisen comes in as well. It's a good sign that Kewell might be joining. It shows the board are fully behind Ange. That's another sign as well, isn't it, Alison, that the board are behind the manager if they exceed his request to bring in a backroom staff member.
Listen, I think if you're winning leagues, if you're winning cups, if you deliver a successful team on the pitch, I think if you come in and bring calm to very, very troubled waters in the way that Ange Postecoglou did, I think you can go and ask to bring in another coach to sit alongside you. I think right now there's very little that Ange Postecoglou would give his blessing to that I think Celtic would not agree to. I think when you come in and perform the way he has in the first 12 months and have a real immediate affinity with the club, but more importantly, I think just get rid of the discourse that was around Celtic this time a year ago and bring a calmness to it. I think you deliver a winning side, you create a winning team, and so much of the noise around the club settles down. And I think he could go and ask for Graham Souness to come in as his
hand was undoubtedly strengthened, was it? Steady, Alison, steady.
I think there's not much he could ask for just now within the financial obligations that he's required to work in, the parameters that he's required to operate in. I think there's not much that he would be refused at the minute. Yeah,
he's in a great position, isn't he? Having won the title in the cup, that just said there, his hand's been strengthened, and he could bring anybody they want. Graham Souness is a new one on me, but though.
the winning is one element of it, probably, of course, the most important element of it. But there's something else too, in that he's a very popular manager among the support, and I think when you have that, when you're not fighting against the tide, when you're not fighting to bring people on board when it's already there, I think it makes a considerable difference.
I think, as you said there, alluded to the calmness that he's brought in, and I've alluded to it as well, that statesman-like manner that he's brought to the Celtic job, the manager's job, and the level, the sheer professionalism about it. Then I guess the board are, he has earned the right to say to the board, can I have this, that, and the other now? And I suppose it's up to them to say yay or nay, but at the minute it seems to be yes is the answer to those questions that he's asking.
Wait till he asks for Ronaldo.
Well, somebody will say, should Ange go ask the board to sign Bale? That's that enters the realms of fantasy or fiction. We'll soon see. Well, if you're a manager, you chance your arm at this moment in time, don't you?
I think the financial parameters don't.
I don't think Bale would be in there.
But you would take the point that right now he's in a very solid bargaining position when it comes to asking and requesting for things.
David Bradley comes in and says, Tony, I think Ange is going to go for a more stronger player. This time players like Taylor won't cut it in the Champions League. Well, we'll soon find out in the fullness of time, because they're all going to have to play their part at some point, Alison, in the season, because we spoke about it the other day. There is a lot of games up until November, isn't there? And there's a full Champions League campaign. So players like Taylor will feature.
Yeah, I think it's a very intense start to the season just because of when the World Cup takes place and getting in all the Champions League group stage games before then. It's hugely intense from the opening competitive game. I think you will need significant depth within the squads just to cope with that in the opening months. It can't be done at the other side when you've got players coming back that might be carrying knocks or whatever. I think it depends who comes in. I think Greg Taylor will, as I said, I think Greg Taylor has the starting shirt at the minute. I think he's the first choice left back at the minute. But I think Ange Postecoglou will want to identify a player that can come in, can put him under pressure and can push him for it. And then it becomes a question of how you respond to that, how you react to it. And then you make a decision based on what's in front of you in terms of the performances, from what you're getting out of those that you're asked to perform in the way that you want them to play.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Now, another name, Alison, Vinicius Souza, a Brazilian 22-year-old defensive midfielder who allegedly it's a straight shootout between Celtic and Fenerbahce to sign him. And we'll soon see what happens with that. I think initially Celtic wanted it as a loan deal, but I now think that Lomo SK, our Belgian club, are willing to let him go. Do you see that as another key area? We've spoken before about we thought that central midfield could do with being bolstered with height and presence. So he seems to fit that bill, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think you could spend an awful lot of your time over the next few months looking up background information on every player that other clubs will be linked with. I think what's fairly clear is that there are certain areas of the pitch where reinforcements will be sought. And I think midfield is one of those areas. And I think there'll be a number of players who will be identified as having the capabilities of coming in and performing. And what you would say just now is that on the back of the 2 transfer windows that Ange Postecoglou has had so far in his Celtic career, there hasn't been a failed window. You would have to say that the signings that he's made by and large have come in. They have offered a very significant contribution. They have elevated the standard at the club. They have improved the starting 11. And I think you would see that both from last year's summer transfer window and you would see it again in the January transfer window. The players that came in made an immediate impact. And I know you'll point to maybe one or two, like Ideguchi hasn't featured terribly often so far. We've still really to see enough of him to make a judgment on him. But I think what you have is a manager just now who has the trust of the board and who is very clearly capable of identifying a player that fits the system he wishes to play.
Yeah. No, Alan Robertson says, let's hope Fenerbahce get their other target for Celtic to get Sousa. And John Coyle comes in and says Celtic needs some physicality in the midfield. But yeah, I mean, Ange just said before he identifies players on the premise of them playing in his team and performing a certain role. As you say, there'll be a lot of names. Myself and Sean and yourself will say we're not going to spend time dissecting every name, but those 2 in particular seem to be 2 players that Celtic have a genuine interest in. There are other names that are flung because it's the silly season and it's that time of the year, Alison. But if the manager could get 1 or 2 of those players in, I think the Celtic supporters would be delighted because, as you say, key areas that he's targeting now for upgrades, isn't it?
Yeah, I think fans always love to see new blood come in. They love to see new signings come in. There's always a bit of excitement when there's a freshness about the team, and I think you always want to give an impression that you're not resting on your laurels, that you're looking to develop the side. I think particularly this season when you know there's Champions League football waiting, I think it's a huge challenge for Celtic to rise to that. I think people want to see investment within the squad, tweaking the squad to enhance what's already there, to build on the foundations that were set last season, but to take them forward a bit. And to do that, it might mean bringing in 2 or 3 quality players who you know go in almost first team ready, rather than maybe buying a raft of players that might become fringe players. And it's very different for Ange Postecoglou now than where he was 12 months ago. He doesn't need substantial surgery on the squad. He can afford to take his time and identify precise personnel that he wants to go on and take Celtic on to the next level.
Is it imperative to get it done early, Alison, or do you think he is kind of assessing his options and will? I'm just talking about in terms of getting those players integrated into the system and so that they can try and hit the ground running when the season starts and be ready for Champions League. The nature of the Champions League is you're straight into the group stage. It doesn't matter who you draw. You know, it's going to be box office.
I think in an ideal world, you would want to have players in quickly and assimilated and settled as soon as possible. It doesn't always work like that. I think the Jota situation is slightly different because you really don't want to be hanging on for one particular position. I think that's maybe slightly different from the window in general. I think he will probably want to get business done as swiftly as is possible, but you're not the only one in the game. I think players have an opportunity to assess their own options, to make decisions. Quite often what you find is things don't really start to get moving until the English window starts to get cranked up and running. and players have an opportunity to see exactly what's on the table for them. And I do wonder a bit if Jota's maybe thinking along those lines, that there might still be other options.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, it's not imperative in the way it was a year ago. I think you have a fairly settled squad. That's not to say that you wouldn't want to do it before a ball's kicked or before a competitive ball's kicked, but I don't think there's the same urgency as there was last season.
Yep. John Coyle comes back in and says, I trust Ange to have more successful signings than not. He's done well so far. On that kind of note, on the website, Sean Martin has written a piece on all of Ange's 17 signings so far. So you want to check that out on the website. It's a great read. You can add your own tuppence worth as well when you think about it in the comments section. David Bradley comes in and says, Tony Lundstrom handles Celtic's midfield on his own. He needs that midfield sorted. Well, that's fair enough. And Frankie J. Pollock says, Jota will sign and look for a move down south in a couple of years. We need more playmakers in the middle of the park with fast feet. And Alan Robertson comes back in and says, get the right players, preferably quickly, but I'd rather get the right players in rather than rush the process. That's what you've been alluding to as well, Alison. Hashtag Riley McGree, hashtag O'Reilly. Well, on that note, O'Reilly's been a great signing for Celtic. There you go. And John Coyle comes back and says, couldn't agree more, can't allow us to be bullied in the middle of the park. We've been talking about the physicality element of it for a while ourselves, Alison. It'll all come out in the wash. Celtic will do their business when they're good and ready, but the early signs are that they're going to do early business. Cameron Carter-Vickers is in, Harry Kewell on his way, Jota on his way, possibly, Bernabe on his way, possibly, and Sousa on his way, possibly. We'll just need to keep watching this space. Alison, thanks for your contribution. Always enjoy it. Thanks for the comments, guys, and the contributors in there. Thanks very much. And remember, as I always say, hit the subscribe button, www.celticway.co.uk/subscribe. Enjoy 30 days on us. Thanks, Alison.
Thanks very much, Tony. Take care.